I was in 10th grade, I fell in love. I know, a 15-year-old boy falls in love 10 times a day. And if you are a teenager, or used to be a teenager, you know what I'm saying. But this time, I was really in love. She was my study partner in geometry class. Being vulnerable to a few people creates a kinder, more connected world. I didn't know that back then. When I was doing my honors thesis in college about communication and dysfunctional relationships, I made it a point to say that when I had kids someday, I was going to be vulnerable with them and be honest with them. But back then at 15, I didn't know that. I didn't have a role model to show me how. So nobody knew about my feelings with this girl. Not my friends, not my family, not teachers, not a counselor, especially not the girl. And one day, heart got the best of me. I saw her walking down the hall. She's walking away from me in between classes. And I thought, this is it. I'm going to run up to her and I'm going to profess my undying love. So I start running after her, weaving around and through other students. And I'm getting closer and I'm just ready to touch her with my sweaty fingers. I was nervous. And just as my fingers are about to touch her hair, this boy comes out of nowhere and he kisses her. And I'm like, hey! And then she kisses him and I'm like, hey! And then there's tongue, and I'm like, hey! And I run my fingers through my hair, and I walk away, pretending like nothing ever happened. And I realized that I had left something at her feet. And I turned to look, and I realized it was my heart. And as she was kissing him, like in the old movies, with one foot sticking up in the air, I looked back, and I saw her just stomping on my heart, and my heart was breaking. And I still didn't want to share with anybody my pain, because I would rather end my pain than face it. And I knew what I had to do. It would be easy. I knew where my grandfather kept his key to the gun cabinet. And that night I cried out to God or the universe, whoever would listen, I need a sign by the next day. That night, I'm laying on the couch and I'm watching a TV show that my grandparents are watching. It's a rerun of an old doctor show. On one of the spin-off plots is the doctor is volunteering at a crisis center. And he gets a phone call from a young woman. And she says, Doctor, I want to kill myself. I think the clouds parted and the sun shone, and it was the sign. I didn't get it. I was too wrapped up in my own hurt. And we watched the show, and the doctor's counseling this woman on how she shouldn't kill herself. And at the very end, it's the final phone call. And she says, Doctor, I'm so glad you were able to help me. I know what I have to do now. And the doctor smiles, and he says, I'm so glad I was able to help you. And then we hear the gunshot. And the fear on his face as the credits begin to roll. I still didn't get it. I went to bed last night, wrapped up still in my own pain that night. And you know those moments in life when you're kind of half asleep and half awake? And then something happens, like somebody drops the dishes or something, and you kind of wake up with a jolt? In my mind's eye, I heard that shot, and I woke up and I knew. And I rolled onto my pillow, and I curled up in a ball, and the tears fell off my face onto the pillow. And I swore I would never consider ending my life as a way to end my pain again. But I realized, looking back, 3 things. Number 1, not being vulnerable hurts me. I liked that girl, but because I didn't share anything, that turned into such a story that I went from, I kind of like you, to, I can't live without you. And when the pain was so big and I couldn't share it, I thought there was only one way out. Number 2, vulnerability and not being vulnerable hurts others. What if I didn't see that TV show that night? What would happen if I went through with that plan? What questions would my family and my friends and my teachers ask? Why didn't he share his feelings and what he was going through? And let's go back to those moments when we're teenagers, if you're not there already. Wouldn't it be nice if somebody came up and says, I kind of like you? Even today, if you're not a teenager, isn't that a compliment? Even if the feeling isn't mutual, doesn't that make us feel better if somebody just takes one more step to provide a compliment or a sharing of a feeling that's a little bit deeper than just staring at our phones? And number 3, We have no idea what influence or what impact our lives will make on others by being a little bit more honest and a little bit more vulnerable. Now, when I give my workshops, we study the psychology and the sociology of influence and impact and vulnerability. And we do practical things to help us learn how to be a little bit more vulnerable with each other. And we do it in such a way that I call SPI, S-P-I, safe, practical, and impactful. Because that can cause a ripple effect that can go around the world. Who influenced those Hollywood scriptwriters to write something so vulnerable that literally changed and saved the life of a teenager 1,500 miles away? I will never know who they are. And we don't have to be Hollywood scriptwriters to be able to do that. All we have to do is ask one more question. How are you today? I'm fine. What makes you fine today? Now, in my workshop, we cover more details of what this looks like, and we actually provide practical application. And if you're interested in that, so if this resonates with you, I can't convince you to be more vulnerable, but if this resonates with you, just email me, david@justdon'tblink.com, and put workshop in the title. And I'll leave you with this one thought, that being vulnerable creates a kinder, more connected,